We start with the Kulbhushan Jadhav case that comes up for hearing before the International Court of Justice, or the ICJ, on the 15th of May. This Monday, the court will be hearing both India and Pakistan's arguments starting 1:30 p.m. Even though India managed to get a reprieve for the former naval officer who was awarded death penalty by Pakistan by appealing before the world body, it remains to be seen what will ICJ's final decision be. According to Pakistani media reports, the Attorney General was briefed on Jadhav's case after the court stayed his execution. Pakistan has been mulling a legal strategy for their case, even though it will try and convince, it seems, the court that the charges against Jadhav are genuine. Sources suggesting that if the verdict is not in its favor, it could well challenge the court's jurisdiction over this entire issue. India, meanwhile, is hoping to expose Pakistan's violations of the Vienna Convention by laying before the court the unfair treatment meted out to Kulbhushan Jadhav. India hopes to overturn the sentence of Pakistan military court or get it nullified by the International Court of Justice, citing violation of the international law. All right, let's talk more about this. Joining me here in the studio is Ambassador G. Partha, former Indian High Commissioner to Islamabad, also former Information Advisor at the Prime Minister's Office. Thanks so much for joining us here. Joining me from Islamabad is Defence Analyst Mr. Qamar Cheema. Thank you, Mr. Cheema, for joining us. Let me start by asking you, what is Pakistan's point or the case be on Monday when the ICJ, begins to hear this matter once again?
You are talking to me?
Yes, Mr. Cheema.
Well, I think what we have been the case is that Jadhav was caught on 3rd March 2016, and Jadhav has accepted to the Pakistani magistrate that he was involved in destabilizing the peace in Pakistan, and he has been tried under Article 59 of Pakistan Army Act and Article 3 of Pakistan Security Act. Article 3 of the Official Secret Act of Pakistan 1923. So under all these things, the Pakistan has a very strong case that Jadhav has been here to destabilize and create trouble in Pakistan. So Jadhav must be tried under Pakistan's act.
Well, Mr. Cheema, you're saying that Pakistan has a strong case. But one second. But the ICJ, for now, we do know, has stayed his execution. That's point number A. Point number B, reports emerging from within the media in Pakistan are saying that the country finds itself on a very weak spot. It says that Pakistan is clearly at a disadvantage because of the paucity of time, the logistical support, and it's difficult to find legal expertise. That's the reports which are emerging from Pakistan at this point. What would you say to that?
Well, I think if India is playing on the consular access, then I think that's very clear that the right has been expressly granted under Diplomatic and Consular Privilege Act of 1972, that the right of consular access has not been very much explicit. So in this situation, I think the International Court of Justice always have limitation to look at any particular case. So in this case, what we are talking of Kulbhushan Jadhav's case, I think the ICJ has a position of interpretation of any particular thing, or if the both parties agree. And I think Pakistan will strongly defend its case that we found Kulbhushan Jadhav when he has accepted that he was here to destabilize Pakistan, and we call it as a state-sponsored terrorism in Pakistan. So under such kind of situation, the domestic law of espionage must be applied on Kulbhushan Jadhav.
Okay, Mr. Cheema, I've heard your point. Now, Ambassador Partha, Harish Salve says this. He says that the arrest of Kulbhushan Jadhav is dubious. Okay, the espionage charge is a manufactured one, and denying consular access, which India has asked repeatedly 16 times till now, is also a serious breach of Vienna Convention. So, what India's case seems to be pretty strong at this point. Will Pakistan's tactics work?
Look, I think this firstly is not a case of domestic law. It's a case of international law, and I will go into the specific provisions of international law on this. Firstly, I think Pakistan will be well represented. The only serious writing which has been done by an eminent Pakistani jurist is by Sikandar Ahmad Shah.
Okay.
former legal advisor and very highly regarded.
And what does he say?
Now, basically, he is also, I can see from his writings, not his usual confident self. For example, he has quoted, and I'll come to the portion of domestic law later. He has quoted there from the Vienna Convention of 1949, which he says that people who are sort of caught during conflict do not even enjoy the benefits of prisoners of war. Now, there is no conflict between India and Pakistan at the present moment when he has been caught. So, I think, and I think Mr. Shah admits that many of these arguments will need a lot of fine-tuning. So, the Vienna Convention of 1949 specifically speaks of POWs in war, not spies in peace. Okay.
All right.
The other thing is that, as Mr. Chima has mentioned, that they have domestic law which prevents this. Now, you cannot introduce domestic law after you have signed an international convention.
Right.
Because the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, to which Pakistan is a signatory,
so it overrides the domestic law.
Article 46 very clearly says that domestic law cannot be used as an excuse for not fulfilling your international commitment you have acceded to. They had acceded to the Vienna Convention both on the law of treaties and on consular relations. On consular relations, there's no question. There's been a total abuse. He has been denied consular access, and the fact that he is being tried by a military court will work is no excuse. Finally, one little point, and Mr. Chima shouldn't misunderstand my saying this. I followed the debate in the Pakistani parliament very carefully.
Right.
There was a lot of serious debate as whether such extensive powers should be given to military courts at all when it came up for renewal. And I think within Pakistan there is still this serious debate. But as far as we are concerned, the fact that he was not granted consular access, the fact he was not allowed to have his own consul, the fact he was not allowed to meet anybody from outside, these are all violations of the Vienna Convention on
that India
consular
will use
relations.
to its advantage.
So
Mr. Chima, I think wants to respond.
No, certainly he can, but as I said, I'm not saying that we have a winning case or Pakistan has a winning case. They have their points of view, they have very good lawyers, they will no doubt represent them. But the case to my mind now seems to be focused on this. And that's why I'm remaining focused on the case, the Vienna Convention of 1949, which Mr. Shah has alluded, the Vienna Convention on consular relations about access and so on. And finally, the Vienna Convention on the law of treaties. You can't pass a law after you acceded to a treaty.
Right. Mr. Chima, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Does not permit it.
What will Pakistan do?
Consequence. What Pakistan does is Pakistan's business.
What my worthy panelist was saying, I think what he's saying about Pakistan military for role for the military courts, I think that is for the domestic thing. The political parties have been saying that we have given special powers to the Pakistan military for running the military courts because there have been so many terrorists and they want to try all those. So that is something separate that cannot be here. But here in this Kulbhushan Jadhav case, that is very much clear that we believe that India is trying to play to the gallery because for more than 1 year, India has not talked to the International Court of Justice, and right now they're talking to the International Court of Justice, one. But second, the most important point here Pakistan has is that the consular access has not been explicitly granted under Diplomatic and Consular Privilege Act of 1972 of Pakistan 1. Now, the point is that Pakistan, if there is an international law, then there is a domestic law, then the laws, international law, once it is done or it has been codified, then the domestic parliament also need to ratify those particular laws. So it has not been explicitly, what I'm saying, guaranteed under the Diplomatic and Consular Access of Privilege Act of 1972, explicitly guaranteed. So it has been there, but in circumstances which we have talking about Kulbhushan Jadhav, the man who has been caught red-handed, and he has accepted to the Pakistani magistrate, and he has given his consent that he was doing all that activities deliberately. So I think there is no point, and Pakistan will rightly mention its case that that this is a very clear example of the state-sponsored terrorism, and I think this is the right point. International community needs to understand that why India was fomenting insurgency by sending its naval colonel here.
Well, Mr. Chima, we understand your point, but the point that Ambassador Parthasarathy was making about the domestic law versus what Pakistan has agreed as far as the Vienna Convention and the before the ICJ is also a separate matter. I think Ambassador Parthasarathy wants to take on from that.
No, I mean, I agree with Mr. Chima that yes, about how they passed their law. I'm just commenting that this is a point we will make, that this is not even normal Pakistani justice. So it's just a point. Whether it's accepted or not is a different issue. A military court finds favor nowhere in international law.
Right.
When it comes to observance of the responsibilities of states.
And also,
no, just one more point. The domestic law was put in after Pakistan signed the agreement. That is not valid under the Vienna Convention of the law of treaties, to which Pakistan is a signatory, which says very clearly you can't later take recourse to domestic law. After you sign a convention, you would be bound by the international. In fact, I want to tell Mr. Chima that this was an argument we used with the Americans. I used it when we argued our case on Tarapur, and they passed a law to cut off supplies. We said, sorry, you're in violation of international law. Finally, they had to reach a settlement with us. So I'm talking on the basis of personal experience. I am not a legal expert by any stretch of imagination, but I'm not prejudging what the court will say. But I think people like Sikandar Ahmed Shah and others who understand international law in Pakistan perhaps recognize they have a weak case.
Now, even the ICJ, you know, the entire episode of staying of the execution, that means the ICJ finds some merit in India's case, but of course the case has to be heard first on Monday, and we'll see where it goes on from here. But Mr. Chima, an eminent Pakistani jurist, Ali Nawaz Chauhan, now I'm reading this off a report that I've read, has told Dawn, and in fact he was an ICJ judge, he served at the ICJ bench from 2005 to 2009, he's saying that the ICJ could assume its jurisdiction on the Jadhav case despite India and Pakistan being Commonwealth countries if the matter is raised as a human rights issue. Now, what happens in that case? Has Pakistan got a plan then?
Well, I think what is kind of a human rights case? International Court of International Human Rights Law applies here. In case when a person, a spy to which India has accepted that although India accepts that he was an officer of Indian Navy, but the person himself accepts that he's the incumbent officer of Indian Navy. So I think where is human rights law? The human rights law is that when Pakistan can say that India is violating the very much norms of diplomatic norms, where sending its spy and coming here who is creating hurdles and fomenting insurgency into the already troubled province of Pakistan, we understand the Balochistan. So I think international humanitarian law how can it be on a spy? Well, I think that is a very weak position of India if it is that India goes for humanitarian law. But I think one thing the ambassador was mentioning, I think under international law, once there is an provision of international law is there, but I think there is an issue that the domestic legislative assembly or they need to ratify that particular law.
No.
So for example, comprehensive test ban treaty initially passed by as per international law, but the Americans were there, but the Americans didn't ratify the comprehensive test ban treaty, so that is still in limbo. So I think, and as I mentioned in my consular and diplomatic access to be given to the what I have mentioned is that is very much clear that there has not been an explicitly open or given access. That means that consular access has not been explicitly given under the Diplomatic and Consular Privilege Act of 1972. That is the point. And that is why if India is talking about they have gone 16 times, they have asked for the consular access. So the parliament has a very much right to go for any kind of particular law if we actually want. And that could be on case-to-case basis. That can be, as I quoted, the 1972 Diplomatic and Consular Privilege Act.
I want to ask. I think one point I would wish to make with regard to what Mr. Chima has said. All these allegations that he was spying, he was caught in Pakistan, would have been more credible and would have appeared credible to the world. Here we are talking of the International Court of Justice. If it had been an open trial where he was allowed choice of a lawyer of his own, which is what is done. I mean, I've known of cases in Pakistan where the Americans have sent in American lawyers. So that does not carry too much weight in an international tribunal, because he was not properly legally represented to his satisfaction or to any satisfaction of any outsider. This is a military court conducted in secret, where nobody is allowed to know what the evidence is. Pakistan may say that he was caught on Pakistani territory. I am not sure even if the Iranians agree with that. With regard to Kulbhushan Jadhav, he was running a business with Iranian partners, and when Mr. General Rahil Sharif took this up with the Iranian president, the Iranians reacted very sharply. I will leave it at that. I don't want to speak for the Iranians at this stage, because the border between Pakistan and Iran is rather heated up at the moment. So I won't add to that.
But Mr. Cheema wants to come in.
I would say that he has been tried under the Field Marshal Court Journal of the Pakistan Military 1. Now, as per, he can he can appeal again in 45 days. He can go to the Pakistan High Court, he can go to the Pakistan Supreme Court, and he can go to the President of Pakistan for any kind of an appeal. So I think Pakistan has taken one complete year from March 3rd, 2016. This is May or April, he was given death sentence. So Pakistan took a complete year to actually decide that what should be done, and he has been given all kind of complete lawyer so that he can plead his case. So I think there's
India was just asking for consular access.
Mr. Cheema, can you name his lawyer? Can you name me one, and I know a lot of your eminent jurists, name me one eminent jurist from Pakistan who's defending him. Name me one.
I think, let me tell you, once the case is decided in the military court, the proceedings are definitely in a secret manner. But one thing is very clear, that if he has a trouble, he has to apply the case again. There in Field Marshal Court Journal 1, he can go to the High Court, he can go to the Supreme Court, he can go to the President of Pakistan. The case is very open, I think, and I think Pakistan took one complete year.
All we are pointing out is to statements by various Pakistani generals that right or wrong we are going to hang him, which is prejudicial to fair justice, and therefore we are not arguing this case in Pakistan. We are arguing it at the International Court of Justice. As I have said, our reading of your law superseding the Vienna Convention is not borne out. You know, Pakistan lost the 2000 case, let me say, because I was High Commissioner in Pakistan at that time, because on the shooting down of the aircraft, for the simple reason, it was not that we said that we don't recognize now the jurisdiction, but when we acceded to the Supreme Court, to the International Court of Justice, our caveat was that it will not apply to disputes with existing or for future Commonwealth countries, and the Supreme Court and the ICJ upheld that. There is no such argument at the present moment, but I am not prejudging the case.
But Mr. Cheema,
I am not a lawyer.
Ambassador Parthasarathy, you know what we're also reading up, hearing reports coming out of Pakistan is that Pakistan may actually use that 1999 case defense to overrule the International Court of Justice. Mr. Cheema, can you throw some light on that? Is that one of the strategy that Pakistan is looking at, and how successful could that perhaps be then?
Well, I think what matters is that Pakistan will follow all the canons of international law, all the avenues which Pakistan is a member to, definitely international UN General Assembly or Security Council. So Pakistan will follow all that. One thing. Second, if we are dealing with Kulbhushan Jadhav, we are dealing with the domestic law of espionage. And third, as we mentioned earlier, Pakistan will take the case to the ICJ. And as I mentioned earlier, that diplomatic and privilege access under 1972 will not be given, has not been given to all the people who have been involved in such kind of an activities. So I think that is very much clear that Kulbhushan Jadhav has been caught red-handed, and I think India has been late. Although India was not accepting that this is their man. Now they're accepting. So now, for the domestic and playing to the gallery, and for the public, India has taken the case to the ICJ, although the case is very much weak. And the international community can better understand that a person serving in Indian Navy has been caught red-handed, and that from Balochistan, and
Well,
he has been given all
Mr.
kind of...
Chima,
Mr.
the
Chima, may I say one
ICJ
thing?
is looking at this
This
case
man
very differently.
retired.
Yeah.
Look, you are a defense expert. You know a lot of people retire at the rank of majors and lieutenant colonels, and they go on to civilian life. In fact, your Mr. Nawaz Sharif's son-in-law belongs to that category.
But they do not go with different names on other countries.
It is 6 years since this gentleman left. He joined business. He runs a shipping business legally in Chabahar with an Iranian partner, and that's what's upset the Iranians. According to the Iranians, you use the Jaish-e... No, just a minute. I'm telling you what the Iranians are saying. You use the Jaish-e-Adal, Pakistan does, and the Jaish-e-Adal have kidnapped this guy from from Iranian territory. Now, I'm not. The fact of the matter is, when General Rahil Sharif took this, when General Rahil Sharif took this up with President Rouhani, the Iranians took very serious objection. You know that.
Well,
I know that.
I think this is the kind of a blame that Pakistan is using Jaish-e-Adal. I think if the Kulbhushan Jadhav has been caught, he has a different passport here, and he has a different name in India. So I think if he's a normal businessman, should not have dual names at home and abroad for traveling and business and for all these things. And I think this is a very clear thing, and I think India had no response to it, that how they should deal with it. I think this is a very unfortunate time, and that Pakistan and India should resolve all their matters. And I think sending such kind of spies, which India has already been sending, be it the Sarbajit Singh or Shamim or many other, Kashmir Singh, many other people who have been sending in past times, and this is the 5th spy who Pakistan has caught very openly. So I think this is the right time. The international community is understanding Pakistan's perspective very carefully, and Pakistan is establishing to the international community that this is a very much state-sponsored terrorism, and this is where we are making the word clear. And the international community, you take the matter to the ICJ, and we will definitely reply there. Although Pakistan has not shown its card completely, Pakistan will show its card when the government will show its card when we are there in ICJ.
We're waiting for what the Pakistani response will be.
As for the international community, the circumstances under which he is arrested has not only been contested by the Iranians, but by the German ambassador to Pakistan. So I'm just saying, let's not get into the international community on this one, because I'm giving you just facts. I'm giving just facts. I'm not commenting on whether they're right or they're wrong. I'm just commenting on developments. So let us wait and see how this argument prevails in the International Court of Justice.
You know, gentlemen,
and none of the arguments which have now been used have been used by this eminent Pakistani jurist Sikandar Ahmed Shah in defending the case in the Dawn.
I'm going to take in last reaction. We're running out of time. Ambassador Parthasarathy, to you first, and then I'll take the closing comments from Mr. Chima. The very fact that India has gone to the ICJ for the first time since 1971, and if you look at the facts of the case, they suggest that the argument that India has is particularly strong at this time, even if it uses the point that it asked for consular access, and India was repeatedly denied that consular access, a clear breach of the Geneva Convention, of which Pakistan is also a signatory, India is also a signatory.
Yes.
Don't you think India will play on that point and get away with this?
No, basically we are going to confine ourselves to international law, Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, and if Pakistan mistakenly brings up the Vienna Convention of 1949, they'll lose the case before it started. And I know they will engage the best minds. Generally in such cases, they get people from UK and Europe.
Okay, Mr. Chima, has Pakistan got a plan? Has Pakistan got a clear strategy as to how it's going to approach? Of course, we'll have to wait and see what happens in the court finally. But Pakistan has to be prepared. You know, it seems that with India going to the ICJ, Pakistan has been caught off guard completely. It didn't expect this.
Well, I think the International Court of Justice has limitations. Either they can go for interpretation of a treaty, or they can go for implementing a particular agreement. One. Second, I think Pakistan has pleaded this case very wonderfully at home. And for quite 1 year, India was not talking to the International Court of Justice. But right now, after 1 year, they have given it has been given death sentence. So India is trying to pacify its public and people. So they're coming out with this particular case. But I don't think India will get anything from ICJ, because it's a very much case where an Indian spy has been caught. And I think this is a very bad time for both countries. We need to move forward in some good times.
All right, we'll leave it at that. But the question remains: has moving to the moving the ICJ on Kulbhushan Jadhav case, will it really pay off? If it does, will it pay off? India's case or Pakistan's case? That's the big question. For the time being, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much, Mr. Chima. Pleasure having you on the show. Ambassador Partha Sathi, a pleasure always. With that, it's time for us to wrap up this edition. Taking a short break. I'm Sana Khan. Stay tuned to WION.